How fast can I explain the basics of Calculus 1? Well, let's find out. So you start by learning about limits in calculus, and the limits you can solve by plugging in this if your function is defined. But notice if we plug in this -2, that we actually get an undefined. We get 0 over 0, which means we're going to have to use a different method to solve this limit. So how can I do this? Well, I can do this using factoring. So if I factorize 6 out of this x term, and I factorize 6 out of this 12, what I'm going to end up with is this term right here. 6 times x plus 2, so I factored that 6 out. Now I need to factor this bottom expression. And I can do that by thinking about what terms are going to add to give me that 3 and multiply to give me that 2. And if I think about it, 2 and 1 will do just the trick. So I can factor that bottom expression by taking x plus 2 times x plus 1, because 2 and 1 will add to give me 3 and multiply to give me 2. If you refoil these expressions back together, you'll get this one. Now, what I can do from here is I can cancel the x plus 2's, leaving me with just this expression right here. So from here, take this -2 and plug it in for x. So if I do that, I'll get 6 over -2 plus 1, which is 6 over -1, which is the same thing as -6. So -6 is the answer to this limit right here. Now let's talk about derivatives. There's a very common rule called the power rule. The power rule works whenever you have a plus or a minus between your x terms, assuming you're with respect to x. All you have to do for the power rule is take whatever's on the exponent, multiply it by the front of your expression, and then subtract 1 from the exponent, which is what we've done right here. Here's a worked out example of the power rule. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. We also need to talk about the product rule. The product rule happens when you have two functions being multiplied. The product rule works by taking the derivative of your first term times your second term plus the derivative of your second term times your first term. Here is a worked out example of the product rule. Notice here that this g term was the sine of x. We assigned this to be g, we assigned this to be f. But notice that the derivative of g is cosine of x. That's something that you're just going to have to know. If you take these derivatives, you plug it back into this expression, you'll get this final expression down here. The quotient rule works very similarly, and this happens when two terms are divided. All you have to do is find the corresponding derivatives and plug it into that formula. Here's a worked out example if you want to reference it. Now finally, we're going to talk about the chain rule, but you definitely want to make sure you know this one. The chain rule works by taking the derivative of the outside multiplied by the derivative of the inside.